Week 13 is here, and I'm back with 6 of my favorite plays on FanDuel and DraftKings, including a couple value plays I'm eyeing up at the wide receiver and tight end position, a couple games I'm looking to stack, and of course, my favorite play of the week. Who is it? Belly up to the fantasy bar and find out. Welcome in, guys. Week 13 edition Beers Daily Fantasy 6-pack. Good to be back here once again, providing you 6 guys fresh off the tap I'm looking at for Week 13 on FanDuel and DraftKings. Thank you, as always, for stopping by. Now, before we get into the plays for the week, guys, do me a favor. Like always, make sure you click that thumbs up button on YouTube. It really helps us out, and that is the tip jar here in the fantasy bar. These videos are free. That's all I ask, is you hit that thumbs up button, and make sure you subscribe to the channel as well and get notified when those videos are coming out. Now, before we look at Week 13, let's take a quick look at Week 12. And 6-pack was about as effective as that Raiders offense. Just an absolutely terrible performance there by the Raiders in Atlanta. So obviously a tough week here, but we roll on. We move on to Week 13. So let's start at the tight end position. Some options I'm liking here. We're going to go to the Giants. We're going to go with Evan ENGRAM against Seattle. Now, the first question is who the quarterback's going to be, and I don't think it really matters here with Evan ENGRAM. Obviously, we want to see Daniel Jones in there as of this recording. We're not sure if it's going to be Jones or Colt McCoy, but if it is McCoy, I'm okay with that as well. A guy that's going to look to hit on those short passes and target Evan ENGRAM early and often. We saw some of that last week, and in fact, over the last 5 games, Evan ENGRAM, 9 or more targets in 4 of those games. We look at the spread here. Seattle, very big favorites in this one. That should lead to even more passing attempts here for the New York Giants and more targets for a guy like Evan ENGRAM. And the Seahawks have struggled against his position. I know Jamal Adams, one of the best safeties in the league, very good at covering tight ends, but he has so much responsibility here in this bad secondary, a guy that plays a lot around the line of scrimmage as well. And it's kind of shown in the stats. Seattle, 4th most fantasy points allowed over the last month to the tight end position. So now the matchup I'm going to avoid here. ENGRAM looks to be in another good spot here for 10+ targets here, and give me that all day at under 5,000 here on DraftKings. All right, let's move on to the running back position. We're going to go with the returning Jonathan Taylor of the Colts. Now the Colts, we know, one of those teams, one of those backfields. It can be confusing on who to roster, but we're going to roll the dice here with Jonathan Taylor. Let's go back to Week 11. I know he missed last week with being on the COVID list, but let's look at Week 11 in that game against the Green Bay Packers. And Taylor handled 26 of the possible 41 backfield opportunities there for the Colts in that game against Green Bay. We know that was an advantageous matchup. Will they get an even better matchup here with the Houston Texans? I mean, we look at the course of the season, there's only been one game all season long that a running back has not scored this season against Houston. We saw old man Adrian Peterson punch in for 2 touchdowns on that Thanksgiving Day. And the Texans, we know, you give up a lot of touchdowns. Obviously, you give up a lot of fantasy points here as well. 2nd most in the league. Love this matchup here for Jonathan Taylor. I think the confusion on who to roster here. Is it Taylor? Is it Hines? Is it Wilkins? We'll keep the ownership down here. Dream matchup here. Love the spot for Jonathan Taylor against the Houston Texans. Now, let's go to the other side of that game. High total in that game. We're going to go to wide receiver. We're going to get some value with KEKE of the Texans. Now, this is one early on in the week. I expected a lot of ownership here on KEKE, and we're just not seeing it. Projected ownership right now under 10%. I do think that number will grow throughout the week. You will hear his name in a lot of different places, but this is a guy coming out of college I was very high on, a guy that's not really gotten a lot of opportunity. Well, opportunity knocks here now for KEKE. No Will Fuller. We know he was suspended. Randall Cobb remains on IR, and Kenny Stills was shown the door with a pink slip. So leaves Brandon Cooks, who's going to eat up a lot of ownership here, going to be one of the higher owned, if not the highest owned wide receiver on this slate. COUTEE and Isaiah Coulter, an unseasoned rookie out of Rhode Island. So COUTEE only 3,500 here on DraftKings, under 5K on FanDuel. And I love the skinny stack. And not a game I certainly want to go nuts and stack a million different ways, but say you did go with Watson. I think most people are going to go Watson with Cooks. You can mix it up with COUTEE, or just go with the skinny stack. Like I said, one piece from each side. KEKE here and Jonathan Taylor on the other side. All right, moving on to our next play. We're going to stay at wide receiver. We saved you some money there with old KEKE. We're going to go to Allen Robinson of the Bears. Now, there's a lot of reasons I like Allen Robinson here. First of all, let's talk floor, ceiling combinations. Floor we know we want in our cash games, and he's given us that. 10 or more DraftKings points in 9 straight games here. So absolute consistency here from Allen Robinson. Really hasn't mattered who the quarterback has been, and has provided some upside in GPPs as well. 19 or more DraftKings points in 5 of the last 9 games. So we get that combination. We also get great leverage off teammate David Montgomery, who's in a tremendous matchup, no doubt. Looked great against the Green Bay Packers last week. Now gets another good matchup here with the Detroit Lions, home favorites. Checking all the boxes is David Montgomery, but he's also checking that ownership box. It would not shock me to see him approach 40% in ownership this week in tournaments. So why not go to the passing game here with Allen Robinson? It really doesn't matter. You can pick any which way you choose here against the Detroit Lions, but let's look at wide receivers. Bottom 10 in fantasy points allowed this season are the Lions. In last 4 weeks, also bottom 10. So they've not gotten any better. There's some injuries in that secondary. We'll see how that plays out. It doesn't really matter if these guys are in or out. The matchup is ideal here for Allen Robinson, under 7K on both sides. Take advantage here against the Detroit Lions. All right, we like Allen Robinson. We're going to roll the dice at quarterback. That's right. We're going to go with Mitchell Trubisky of the Bears. Now, some of you are turning off the video here, and I get it. Mitchell Trubisky, not for everybody. You could go with a guy like Kirk Cousins. Hell, you could go with anybody from Minnesota. I almost put that whole team in the six-pack here. From Dalvin Cook, the wide receivers, Cousins, and the tight end was too easy. So we're going to risk it here with old Mitch against this Lions defense, who we know has been absolutely garbage. We saw Deshaun Watson, who's way, way, way beyond what Mitchell Trubisky is, but we saw him really carve this team up. We saw receivers running open all over the field. Detroit, 28th in DVOA against the pass, 30th in DVOA overall is this Lions team. And even with new coach, new this, new that, it's still the same players. It's still the same bad defense. And Mitchell Trubisky, a little cherry on top here. Love the narratives, you know that. 12 touchdown passes in his last 4 games against the Detroit Lions, against only 1 interception, 3 TD passes in each one of those games. We've seen this guy have some massive performances, some GPP winning performances not too long ago. Has been very good at home, and a guy playing for his job, and hell, maybe his career only adds to the intrigue here. But great matchup, tremendous price. Again, not for everybody, super risky here with Mitch Trubisky, but I am a believer here in this matchup with the Detroit Lions, and I love this stack with Mitch Trubisky and Allen Robinson. All right, it's time to take a look at my favorite play for Week 13. But before we do that, guys, we're going to continue our Beast of the Week contest. Absolutely free to play. All you got to do, get in the comment section right below the video and your best guess and fantasy points on DraftKings for my Beast of the Week. The closest guess will win themselves a free week of RotoGrinders Premium. That's right, gives you access to everything, all the different sports, lineup HQ, articles, videos, everything you need to help make you a better daily fantasy player. Or if you're already a loyal subscriber and you know how good that content is, then we're going to send you a free RotoGrinders t-shirt. All right, let's get to it. My favorite play for Week 13, no mess, the Beast of the Week. All right, Beast time. We owe you one more running back, and one guy stood above the rest here. No, not Dalvin Cook. Too easy, although I love him. We're going to go out to the West Coast. We're going to go at running back Austin Ekeler of the Chargers, this week's Beast of the Week. Now, first thing that stood out here was the price, right around 7K on both sites. DraftKings, we know, more valuable with that PPR upside. In fact, this guy came back from injury and saw 30 opportunities in that game against Buffalo, 25 touches, including 16 targets. And I realized they were playing from behind for the majority of that game, so he saw way more targets than he normally was. But the point is, this guy dominated snaps right off the bat. There was no easing him back in. The snap share was pretty much a 3-1 over Josh Kelly. We'll see if Kalen Ballage is back in that lineup. I don't really care if he is. Austin Ekeler, the back you want here against the Chargers. The matchup with New England, absolutely phenomenal on the ground. We just saw a huge game from Kenyon Drake. Even in an ugly game, Drake was able to put up numbers. The whole Belichick takes out the best player. That's going to apply to Keenan Allen, in my opinion, which is going to lead to even more targets here for Austin Ekeler. Looks like a close game, looks like a competitive game, but the Pats, again, 28th in DVOA against the run this season. Austin Ekeler, way too cheap here. Good matchup here at home. I think he smashes once again making him easily my favorite play for Week 13 and this week's Beast of the Week. All right, guys, that wraps up for Week 13 here in the Fantasy Bar. Any comments, questions, feedback, guys, whatever you want to talk about in that comment section, it is there for you. Don't forget, fantasy points for Austin Ekeler on DraftKings for your shot at some free RG Premium. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button. You've also subscribed to the channel. For RotoGrinders.com, I am Beer saying salut. Best of luck this week, guys, and we'll see you right back here next week.
Hey, thanks for checking out our videos. If you want more expert advice on DraftKings, FanDuel, or any other daily fantasy sports, make sure you check out the current videos playlist